Okay, so hopefully you've had some time to think about your answers and write down a few on the Google document that I provided. Let's go ahead and address the questions that I asked. I asked three questions. I asked, what is Shel Silverstein inviting you to do in this poem? Why did he write the words hoper and prayer the way that he did? And what do you guys think, based on the words surrounding it, he meant by flax golden tails? These are all really good questions, and they're kind of tricky to think about, especially for our first poem. But let's go ahead and answer them together. I'm going to read the poem one more time, and then we'll talk about the answer to the first question. If you are a dreamer, come in. If you are a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer. If you are a pretender, come sit by my fire. For we have some flax golden tails to spin. Come in, come in. So my first question to you was, what is Shel Silverstein inviting you to in this poem? Well, if I told you that this is the first poem in his book of poetry called Where the Sidewalk Ends, would that make you feel a little bit differently about what he's inviting you to? Think about who he's inviting. He's inviting dreamers, wishers, liars, hopers, prayers, magic bean buyers. Sounds like he invited just about everybody that has an imagination. So that's our first clue. And then it says, come sit by my fire, for we have some flax golden tails to spin. And even if we don't know what flax golden means yet, we do know what a tale is. A tale is a story. So he's inviting you to come in and listen to his tale as you sit by the fire. So I believe, and especially because this is the first poem in his book called Where the Sidewalk Ends, that he is inviting you to use your imagination and open it up to the world of poetry. And so that's why I like starting off this poem with our poetry unit, because I feel like it's inviting you to get into more poetry. And poetry is really cool because you can be creative, you can invent your own words, you can ignore some punctuation and capitalization rules. You can be very, very creative with poetry. And so excuse me. And so he's inviting you to come in, use your imagination, and listen to these tales. The next question I had for you was, why do you think he wrote hoper and prayer that way? Well, on the very first page that I showed you guys, I said that words and phrases can supply rhythm and meaning in a poem. They can make regular beats, and they can also make rhymes. So I think he wrote it this way for two reasons, and maybe you came up with something similar to me, and maybe you came up with something different. Hoper and prayer, when it's written with a dash right there, number one, it draws your attention to the word. So you really have to pay attention to it. Also, it makes it so each syllable is really heavily pronounced. Hoper, prayer. Okay? And I believe that he did it to kind of give the poem beat and a steady rhythm. So listen. If you are a dreamer, come in. If you are a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer. If you are a pretender, come sit by my fire, for we have some flax golden tails to spin. Come in, come in. So you see how it sort of establishes a heavier emphasis on the second syllable, and it gives it a beat. Also, if you've noticed, we have some end rhyme here. Liar, buyer, fire, spin, and in. And those also give the poem a beat and a rhythm. Last question I had was, what do you think flax golden tails means? Now, I actually looked this up online, and there was a lot of debate about what he meant about this. Um, so your answers could have widely varied. But if we look at the context, we know flax golden, tails to spin. This is sort of a play on words, and it's a lot of that figurative language that we were talking about right before we left school. Okay, so if we have flax golden tail, flax is a type of seed that produces a really bright yellow flower. So if you think of a flax golden, it's something very bright and yellow and sparkly. And he's talking about a tale or a story. So he's talking about a very interesting, very shiny, very brilliant story or poem that he wants to share with you. Now, he also said magic bean buyer up here, right? So we know who's a magic bean buyer that we know? Jack and the Beanstalk, right? Well, here we have flax golden tails to spin, and this is also a play on words. If you think about fairy tales and Rapunzel, because a lot of times they talk about the flax golden hay that she spins into the straw or hay that she spins into gold. So flax golden tails to spin. If you spin a tale, it means you're telling a story. So it's a play on words to give you an idea of the type of poems or stories you're going to be reading. You're going to be reading very creative, very entertaining, and imaginative poems. So I hope you're as excited about poetry as I am. I can't wait to get more into this with you.